Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Democracy Report. Today is April 28th, 2025. I know we're starting like an hour early today. This is 11 a.m. Eastern Time, or actually 11:04 a.m. Eastern Time. I think maybe we'll start a little bit earlier going forward. Seems to fit in maybe a little bit better with my schedule, so we'll see how this goes. Anyway, so for today, before I get started, please like and subscribe if you do like the show and the channel. Greatly appreciate it. And of course, you can scan the QR code at the bottom if you'd like to donate to the show. That's at buymeacoffee.com/the Daily Democracy Report. So again, thanks for tuning in today. On today's show, I really want to talk about Marco Rubio. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who who I thought when he first came into politics might be a pretty reasonable guy. Ran for president pretty young, pretty early in his career. Totally got shut down by Trump, of course, called him Little Marco, et cetera, et cetera. Now he is the Secretary of State, and I am really not impressed with him at all. So wanted to kind of show a few clips of him, kind of through the history of Russia and Ukraine, the war so far. I talked a lot about it last week, about the war in Ukraine and about the concessions that each side is going to have to do in order for this war to end and for peace. And the way that the Trump administration is handling it, I think, is completely wrong. Basically, Ukraine will give up all the conquered territory, and Russia just has to concede that it won't take the whole country. And who knows what's going on behind the scenes, what kind of talks happened. Over the weekend, Donald Trump and Zelensky did get together at Pope Francis's funeral and did discuss a few things. Apparently, Trump is wanting, Putin to stop firing missiles and attacking, innocent civilians, which he's been doing the entire war. So we're going to talk about, some of what Marco Rubio has said in the past, what he's saying now, and just kind of to hammer home the hypocrite that he is, and how much of just a talking head he is for Donald Trump. And it's very, to me, to him, it should be embarrassing. To me, looking at this from the outside, it's pretty embarrassing. So I wanted to start off with a clip, and this is from Rex Tillerson's. He was the Secretary of State under the first Trump administration, at least for part of it. He is. This is a confirmation hearing where Marco Rubio is questioning him on, on how tough he would be with Putin, things like that. So let me cue this up. We'll play the clip, and we'll talk about it at the end. Here we go.
Let me ask you this question. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
I would not use that term.
Well, let me describe the situation in Aleppo, and perhaps that will help you reach that conclusion.
Let me check audio real quick here for a sec. Yeah, it's just a low audio, so we'll do our best here. Here we go. Let me back it up again. Start from the beginning. I believe this started at, here we go. All right.
That term.
Well, let me describe the situation in Aleppo, and perhaps that will help you reach that conclusion. In Aleppo, Mr. Putin has directed his military to conduct a devastating campaign. He's targeted schools, markets, not just assisted the Syrians in doing it. His military has targeted schools and markets and other civilian infrastructure. It's resulted in the death of thousands of civilians. This is not the first time Mr. Putin is involved in campaigns of this kind. Back when he was just appointed prime minister before he was elected, and I'm sure you're aware of that period of time, there was a series of bombings, and they blamed it on the Chechens. And Mr. Putin personally said that he would punish them, and so he ordered the Air Force to bomb the Chechen capital of Grozny. They used Scud missiles to hit hospitals, the city's main outdoor market, packed with shoppers. 137 people died instantly. They used thermobaric and fuel air explosive bombs. These are the bombs that ignite and they burned the air breathed in by people who are hiding in basements. They used cluster munitions. He used battlefield weapons against civilians. And when it was all said and done, an estimated 300,000 civilians were killed, and the city was completely destroyed. By the way, there's credible body of reporting, open source and other, that this was all those bombings were part of a black flag operation on the part of the FSB. And if you want to know the motivation, here's what it is. Putin's approval ratings before the attacks against the Chechens was at 31%. By mid-August of that year, it was at 78% in just 3 months. So based on all this information and what's publicly in the record about what's happened in Aleppo and the Russian military, you are still not prepared to say that Vladimir Putin and his military have violated the rules of war and have conducted war crimes in Aleppo.
Now, those are very, very serious charges to make, and I would want to have much more information before reaching a conclusion. I understand.
All right, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. I think that was enough, but this was Marco Rubio that was asking him questions. Twice he asked him if he thought that Vladimir Putin was a war criminal, gave a very detailed account of why Marco Rubio obviously thinks or thought that Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and should be tried for war crimes, and wanted to make sure that the Secretary of State at the time was on board with that assessment. As we know now, Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State of the United States of America. The next clip I want to play is another one. So that one, just for context, that one was from 8 years ago, okay, during the first Trump administration. This one that I'm going to play for you now is from 3 years ago. So this is right after the start of the war. And this is Jake Tapper asking Marco Rubio if he agreed with I believe it was like a text or a tweet or something that Lindsey Graham had said, calling for someone in Russia to basically assassinate Putin to get him out of the way. So let's play this clip here, and hopefully it's not too loud now, but I'll adjust volume if we need to. Here we go.
On Thursday, your Republican colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, openly called for someone in Russia to assassinate Vladimir Putin. He wrote, quote, "Is there a Brutus in Russia? Is there a more successful Colonel Stauffenberg in the Russian military? The only way this ends is for somebody in Russia to take this guy out. You would be doing your country and the world a great service," unquote. Do you agree with Senator Graham?
Look, people are watching these images, all right? They're seeing what's happening there and people being murdered and suffering. It makes you angry, and you want something to happen. And you reach the conclusion, boy, wouldn't it be great if someone internally just took this guy and eliminated it? So that's not the official policy, obviously, of the United States. No one's talking about the U.S. doing it. I would say that at some point, I do think Putin's going to be removed from power. I really think the chances of that happening are high, and him losing his power, hopefully to stand trial for war crimes, for what he's done. I know, Lindsey will have to answer for what he meant by that, other than to say I think he's expressing sort of the frustration that a lot of people have that these horrible things are happening, and it doesn't seem to be anything we can do that immediately brings an end to it, and it's very frustrating for people.
All right, so they're once again talking about war crimes that Vladimir Putin is doing. He's not wrong there. Agree with what Marco Rubio is saying there. So I wanted to also play another clip. This is from, and I'm not sure how old this is. I believe this is from Marco Rubio's Senate campaign. And this is about standing with Ukraine. So let's play. I'm just going to play this whole thing. It's a YouTube short, but it was I believe like a campaign ad that he was running.
The one thing I think everyone can agree upon is that the people of Ukraine are inspiring to the world.
So I'm not scared now to get back there. I'm just furious.
I wouldn't really want to participate in anything like this, but I don't really have any choice because this is my home.
I heard the explosions. I decided that I'm ready.
You have 70-something-year-old men, elderly women, younger children taking up arms, prepared to sacrifice everything.
Around the city, they are building defenses.
You wouldn't imagine anything like this in the 21st century, would you?
У нас вот видите, сколько много, и всех правда.
These are people that are basically saying, we refuse to be Putin's slaves. We refuse to live under tyranny. We're prepared to give our life and die for it.
Okay. That should say everything that you want to hear. I mean, it was I thought it was a pretty good campaign ad, right? Stand with Ukraine, stand with the people. People are saying that they're not going to be, slaves to Putin. They're not going to, but, now we're hearing, from Marco Rubio and others that, oh, hey, well, we got to solve this thing. We got to just stop the killing no matter what. And just everybody has to concede something. So here's the next clip I want to play for you. Is the final clip I'm going to play today. But this is basically Marco Rubio on kind of what's happened on his state now. This is from Meet the Press over the weekend. So here is Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Let me ask you about some of the language you've taken. Just 3 years ago, you co-sponsored a Senate bill barring the United States from recognizing Russian claims to any portion of Ukraine's land. Let me read you part of what you said. Quote, Vladimir Putin is the real aggressor in this war, and he is attempting an unjustified takeover of a sovereign democratic country. The United States cannot recognize Putin's claims, or we risk establishing a dangerous precedent for other authoritarian regimes like the Chinese Communist Party to imitate.
I want to stop there real quick and just take a look at what Marco Rubio said there, that Vladimir Putin is the real aggressor. This is from 3 years ago. This is from September 22nd of 2022. He's attempting an unjustified takeover of a sovereign democratic country. So when have we ever, as the United States of America, not came to the defense of a sovereign democratic country when they were under attack? It's something we've always done. It's something that makes the United States in a lot of ways. And we are, so anyway, we go through all this, right? What does it mean if we allow this to happen and other authoritarian regimes are going to be like, hey, we can do this too? Let's draw a simple parallel here. When Donald Trump says he wants to annex Canada as a 51st state. What is that? How is that much different from just saying we're going to walk in and take Crimea and keep it because we can? This is what I'm talking about as far as, these are the problems that we face, or and what our leaders are showing the world at this point. So this is what Marco Rubio said in 2022. We'll keep going.
What message does it send to China and other adversaries if the United States allows Russia to keep the land it's illegally claimed?
Well, first of all, I would say that right now there's a lot of press reports about this, that, or these concessions or that concessions. A lot of things have been discussed, and the reason why those things are being discussed is very simple. Not because we're going to force anyone to do anything or pressure anyone to do anything like this, but because we need to understand what are the options to bringing about an end to the war. We need to be...
So I'm glad he brought that up, because they don't want to pressure anybody to do anything, but they've already said that they're going to withhold any further arms and money and assistance and stuff to Ukraine if they don't sit down and broker a deal. Now, is that untrue? Is that off the table now? Is that not a fact? I thought it was. We'll let them keep talking.
Be grown-ups and realistic here. In any negotiated end to a war, both sides get something and both sides have to give something up. That's a reality. Without speaking specifically about that or another, you wrote that, you talk about that was back in September of 2022. Since September of 2022, this war has continued. Thousands of more people have died. Generational destruction that Ukraine's going to spend 2 generations rebuilding from. This is a war that needs to end now. And so in order for this war to end, there are things Russia wants that it will not get, and there are things Ukraine wants that it will not get.
Now, see, here's the problem with this mentality, is that Ukraine didn't start this war, didn't want this war, just wanted to be left alone since 2014, right? Since Russia illegally took Crimea, that started this whole thing. So 11 years, they've been wanting their territory back, and Russia to just leave them alone, and they could be a democratic state that they wanted to. This is not something that each side gets something. This is a thing where you give back what you took and get the hell out. That's what's at stake here. But what have we been trying to do so far? We've been saying, okay, Ukraine, we're not going to, here's our, our protection for you is if you sell us your mineral rights and allow us to take over all this stuff, then we'll protect you because now we have a stake in the game. And Marco Rubio states that. I don't think I play it in here, but during this interview, he kind of says that. He's like, well, here's your, your protection or your security protection is that, hey, we have a stake here now, so we need to protect our claim, so we'll protect you in the meantime as well. Maybe, who knows? But that's not, you're extorting them at that point. You're pressuring them to the table, which he says they're not trying to do. It's just evil to me, but let's let them keep talking here.
If it wasn't the case, that would have been done a long time ago. No one here is claiming that one side is going to unconditionally surrender to the other and bring this to an end. But that's why diplomacy can be difficult and time-consuming, but it is the only way to end this conflict. There is no military solution to this war. The only solution to this war is a negotiated settlement where both sides are going to have to give up something they claim to want and are going to have to give the other side something they wish they didn't. That's how you end wars, and that's what we're trying to achieve here, so more people won't die. There are people who will die today in this war because there is no peace. We don't want to continue to have to say that. Every time you turn on the news and they say, well, another missile strike, all these things will continue to happen. This could get even worse in the months to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, pretty much everything I said there. And their continued talking point to all this is that as long as the war keeps going, people will die. Well, yeah, that's true. And we hate to see that. Everybody hates to see anybody die. But you got to remember, too, that people are fighting for their country. I think I made the analogy, or maybe I didn't, but, let's pretend that Mexico is a military power and just wants to take Texas. And we're fighting a war in Texas or around the borders of Texas for 3 years. And then Russia comes in and says, oh, you know what? Why don't you just let them take Texas? You guys take and by the way, we want all your oil and stuff too. And then let them take Texas. We'll take your oil. We'll give you some protection from Mexico. And that'll be it. How would you feel? How would we feel as Americans if that was the position that was brought to us from a nation that was supposed to be our friend? I'm not saying Russia's our friend, it's a hypothetical, but still you get the point. And maybe instead of Russia, it was Canada that came to our defense, whatever. But, Ukraine has always been a friend of the United States, and now we're basically bending them over a barrel and saying, okay, we'll only protect you if you give us this. And by the way, just give Russia what they've illegally already taken and are currently occupying, and all this can end. And then all your people won't die anymore. Because let's face it, the majority of the civilians that have been killed, maybe almost all the civilians that have been killed in this conflict, have been in Ukraine. And obviously Russia's lost a lot of soldiers here, but Russia's like a meat grinder. They're just going to keep throwing bodies at this thing forever. They don't care. So anyway, I think, I wanted to just kind of highlight, Marco Rubio is, he's gone from saying, this is a terrible war and Russia needs to get out and Vladimir Putin's a war criminal, to he won't even utter the words war criminal anymore. He won't even say that Russia is at fault here. He's just like, there's a war on both sides and everybody has to concede something to make the killing stop. It's a wrong approach. We are a military power. We need to exercise that. We need to show the strength that we have instead of allowing Ukraine to just basically fall, really, and be at the mercy of not only Russia, but now the United States as well. So anyway, thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Love to hear your opinions on it as my opinion. Yeah, we'll see where this whole thing goes from here. You know, I'm not going to stop talking about it when there is news to talk about. So we'll keep talking and see where this all goes. So anyway, I wanted to thank you for watching today. Definitely appreciate it. Tomorrow we'll probably do another, well, we're going to do another show tomorrow. It'll most likely also be at 11 a.m. I'm going to try this new time slot, see how it goes. I guess we'll talk to you all then. Thanks a lot for watching. And again, like and subscribe if you like the content you're seeing. Until tomorrow, stay good to each other, be well, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.